right? This isn't some spooky stuff. However, spiritual warfare in terms of you needing to live out your purpose and the world fighting you at every step of the way is very real. If you believe in God or not, you are serving a God. And you can serve the God of wickedness with your actions, or you can serve the God of righteousness. And we know when we're serving the God of righteousness, and a lot of it has to do with whether or not we're living in our purpose. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, family, to Tea Time Podcast by Byatiyaj. This is your self-help, spiritual podcast, uplifting topics we all love to avoid, but we definitely need to conquer. Tea time is your moment to pause, listen, and absorb what is soothing to you. I'm Atiyaj, aka Tia, a certified holistic life coach, and this idea was sparked by my passion to help others discover their latent potential, purpose, and significance, especially if you are one who feels overlooked, alone, or forgotten. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. I see you and I feel you. Welcome to Tea Time Podcast. Enjoy the tea. Peace. Assalamu alaikum. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Tea Time Podcast. It's your girl, Tia, aka Atiyaj. I am here with another thought-provoking episode. Let's talk about things that is weird to talk about, and we're going to get into it this time. I'm talking about spiritual warfare. What? What is that? Let me burn some sage first, because this is a touchy subject. Let me make sure everything is cleansed around me. So I actually start with a story. Some people might think that the topic of spiritual warfare is really spooky, but the way that I want to frame it is to really bring it to everyone. I want everyone to understand that no matter what religion you are, no matter whether or not you believe in the spiritual realm, in the spiritual world, your spiritual warfare, this is something that affects each and every one of us. And if we don't know that it affects us, we could be losing ourselves. So I want to start with a story. When I lived in Baltimore, I moved into this home by myself. I was the one put in charge. I found a home, and I was the one put in charge with getting roommates. And while I was in there alone, I felt very afraid. For some reason, I just felt fear, and I felt like I couldn't sleep at night, or someone was watching me in the house alone. Now, typically, of course, we can say when you're living alone, this is how you feel. But then I got a roommate, and he was on the second floor, that roommate, but it was still something about the house that made me feel uncomfortable. And it wasn't him, because I found the roommate, didn't know him well, but it was the fact that there was something in that home, perhaps. But I remember telling someone who I had met, she was an older sister, she had been in the nation, and she was also an African spiritualist, and she had told me about sage. So she told me to get some sage, burn it in the house, and I can say some Proverbs verses. She pointed me to one verse, and she said, just say that around the house, burn the sage. And what the sage does is actually cleanse the negativity, cleanse the evil spirits, the evil energy from the places that you're in. So she said, especially around the doors and especially around the windows, go around the entire house burning sage, reciting this proverb, and let me know how you feel after. And I don't know if it's just because I believed it. I don't know if it's because I rid the house of those spirits, but I felt better in the house from that moment on. I got my other roommate, and she was on the second floor with me, and yeah, things were a lot better. So that might have been my first actual, I would say, specific taste of the spiritual realm and dealing with the spiritual realm in my life. And when it comes to spiritual warfare, this is how I believe in it, and this is how I make sense of it for who I am, for my Islam, and for what my needs are in life. I believe that we are all in a spiritual battle, right? So the Bible verse that I want to start with that I do love is it's Ephesians 6, chapter 6, verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. So in that Bible verse, if you're a religious person, or even if you're a person aware of energy, you understand that there is negative energy and there's positive energy. And as human beings, we most of us naturally try to be that source of positive energy. We try to be that source of living within our purpose, of fulfilling what we are meant to do in life, of figuring out what our purpose possibly could be in life in order to feel fulfilled, to feel that we're serving our family well, and to feel happy in life. However, we have an enemy. We have negativity. We have people who are against our purpose, not people, but in this, I wanted to bring this Bible verse up because we kind of realize that it's kind of a negative force, right? A lot of times within our life, we fall into this space of depression, or we feel as if there's a boundary that for some reason is trying to stop us from fulfilling our purpose and being our best selves. There's kind of a boundary, or there's always an obstacle in our way. So there are these forces and principalities and energies that are against people who are trying to be positive and trying to live a fulfilling life within their purpose. And this is how I want to frame spiritual warfare, because I believe that every single one of us, every single person listening, has a purpose in life. And that purpose is not just for you, but the purpose that each of us have in life actually helps to make the world a better place. It actually helps to improve the condition of human life and humanity on the earth. Not just humanity, of the animals, of the earth and its systems itself. When we live in our purpose, we actually create a better world. However, the world doesn't want to be better. The world functions as it is, and the world is happy. This is where we get into the ideas of authorities. This is where we get into the ideas of negative spirits. This is where we get into the ideas of rulers, which a lot of us sometimes are afraid to put a face to who those rulers actually are. And that will be another podcast where we talk specifically about the authorities and rulers who, as positive human beings, we are up against in order to try to actually fulfill our purpose and make the world a better place. However, in this episode, I want to speak specifically to the spiritual energy realm that stops us and prevents us from being fulfilled in our purpose in life. It prevented our parents and our grandparents from being fulfilled in our purpose in life. And a lot of this has to do with energy. A lot of this has to do with your soul. A lot of this has to do with spirit. So the world that we live in, we can tell that we do not live in a positive world. We can tell by the fact that we're going through climate change scientifically that this is not a positive world that we're living in. This world is not functioning the way that it should. It's not functioning to help to cultivate life and grow life beyond where it is now. It's actually functioning in a way that is destroying life as it naturally should be. So that means that there are negative forces preventing us from growing and blooming into who we are meant to be in this world. So in our attempt to fulfill our purpose, which naturally is a positive thing, we naturally bring obstacles towards us while we're in that, right? We bring trial, we bring tests that are naturally occurring because we're in opposition of this world. This world is wicked that we live in. Wicked meaning not evil, bad. Yes, it is evil and bad, but let's be more specific with our wording. Wicked meaning that it is not cultivating of life. It is not good for growth. It is not accepting of natural. It's not accepting of positives, meaning additions. It this world seeks to diminish. This world seeks to take away. And I'm not talking about the earth when I say world. I'm talking about the environment, the energy that controls and that is the main force that is helping this world, this society, and this society that we live in to function the way that it functions today, right? A lot of people may bring it to capitalism. A lot of people may bring it to fascism. That's politics. I like to keep things in the spiritual realm because it's, number one, it covers all politics. Number two, it covers all faiths, right? It covers all ideas. When we think of things spiritually rather than giving isms and names to it, we can understand it in a better way, and it's easier to share that with other peoples, no matter what your faith is, no matter what your party is, political party is, no matter what your understanding of history is. You can understand that if you're trying to be a positive person, automatically negative things come to you. So I would like to actually list some ways that I believe negative things come to you. So in the world, right, we all face experiences, we all face situations, we all face certain people that we attract. I believe that depending on the state of who we are, we attract things that benefit us in our purpose, or we attract things that will keep us and prevent us from actually fulfilling the purpose. What am I talking about? Here are the things that the world does to keep you basic. And by basic, I mean that keep you at a baseline, keep you not elevating, keep you at a feeling down, right? Keep you feeling as if you are not anything to the world. Here are ways that the world does that to you. Number one, it minimizes your greatness and relevance. This is so key, especially in the world of social media, right? So in social media, we have everyone comparing themselves to one another. And a lot of times there is this idea that I've noticed, especially in the millennial generation, where we won't share. I've been victim to this. I won't share because I feel that was said already, or I'm not relevant enough to speak on that, or nobody knows me, so why should I speak on it? Or I'm not going to comment on Ye and Kyrie because those people don't even care about me, right? So we get this idea put into our brain that we are less than, irrelevant, or our voice doesn't matter. And I believe I've said it on the podcast before, that's an idea that we definitely have to fight. Because if we're each living in our own purpose, my purpose is not your purpose. So you could have this very same podcast, you can have it scripted the exact same way that I'm saying it, but because you are saying it, you are going to touch someone that I cannot touch because of who you are. So that means that each and every one of us are absolutely and extremely relevant in our own right. And especially when we're acting within our purpose and we're acting positively, we impact people in a way that we could never imagine. There's somebody that might be super successful that you impacted and you may never know it. But that is why we cannot silence and minimize ourselves, because who we are is relevant. But the world will tell us the opposite. However, we need to fight that obstacle that is put in front of us. 2, the world will wrap you up in false goals, specifically when it comes to a career, right? A job, money, popularity. The world will take you away from your divine, will take you away from your given purpose in life, so that you can get wrapped up in, I gotta make this money for these bills. I gotta, drop this song with a popular drill beat, even though I don't like drill, because I'm trying to be relevant. And that's what I have to do, right? So that's actually taking us sometimes away from who we are. Right? The point of a purpose is that is who we are. We each have a purpose. We each have a reason for living and being. And a lot of times we fall into depression because we don't know what it is. But that's because in society, we're distracted from us. Like, society teaches us that we should go to school, learn from teachers, respect teachers, and listen to just what they say. After we go to school, we should further and go to college if we want to be good citizens. Then we should get a job with our college degree. Whatever job is offered to us, that's what we should take. And somehow this is going to help us to fulfill life. So within that, we're never taught anything about purpose. We're never taught anything about pulling, educing what is within us in order to live throughout the world, right? What we do within the world shouldn't come from outside in. It should come from the inside out in order for us to be fulfilled. However, we're not taught to live that way. We are taught that we should work within the system. We should be a labor force. Only a few lucky of us will be able to get ahead of that labor force and maybe become capitalist rich people. In that way, maybe a few of us will be able to step out into philanthropy and doing something positive in the world with protests. But these are the boxes that you can fit in. And if you don't fit in one of these boxes, you're being against this world, which I agree. You are being against the world and this society that we live in now, this wicked world, wicked society, that we are being against that when we actually live in our purpose and we come from within and in order to interact with the world. We are making it a better place, and we are disrupting the structures that have been put into place in order to control what we do, right? Third, the world will make you deny or forget your upbringing. This is so key because this is something that I have gone through and that specifically I've struggled with. My upbringing, I was raised in the Nation of Islam. I was raised with morals. I was raised with certain ideas about the world, where my mom taught me about my purpose. She taught me that I should live with purpose. However, when I was functioning within the world, I began to let those ideas go and allow them to be a kind of a second thought. I allowed my purpose to come behind my career in certain aspects, like when I was teaching or when I was a flight attendant, because career has to be way more important. Somebody join me. So a lot of times in life, especially when we become adults and we begin our careers and we begin trying to make a life outside of our family, we try to be, it's like society teaches us to be opposite of our family. It's kind of been created a negative thing to be in line with what your family values were growing up. It's kind of a negative thing if you can't step outside the bounds of the career that your family, may have had throughout the line. I wasn't going to be a private practicing therapist because that's what my mom was doing. I have to do something different. I can't be just like her. That's the idea that society gave me. Meanwhile, what is wrong? If my parents are farmers, what's wrong with me being a farmer? Of course, I can expand my intelligence. However, if there is a practice that my family does, it is a positive thing to continue that practice in the way that fits me and who I am in order to create a legacy for my family, right? So there's a different way of thinking that society doesn't necessarily do. Society wants us to just jump into new intelligences, jump into new things, new ideas, new realms, and forget what your family taught you, right? Forget your morals, especially nowadays, you have to forget your religion. Only crazy people are religious, right? Nowadays, that's what they explain. But in that, we kind of lose focus of our purpose because a part of our purpose is connected to our upbringing. Our parents, like me as a parent with my daughter, I'm specifically helping Journey to help realize her purpose, right? Right, Mama? Yeah? Say good morning. Yay! Wave. There you go, cutie. Number 4. The world will also confuse the morality of right and wrong. I know this is a hot topic, but I don't care. There's a right and there's a wrong in life. And typically what is right is what is natural, right? Typically what is right is what within you, to me, I call that the God within you, is telling you to do, or is your conscience, right? What your conscience influences you to to do, that is typically right. And I know we are used to seeing that image of the angel and the devil on your shoulder. We can identify when that voice within us is the devil or that voice within us is God. And I think the easiest way to distinguish that is when you are told to you're either told to elevate or you're told to decline. And there's a voice within us that tells us to elevate, or a voice within us that tells us to stay stagnant or to decline. Anything that stays still is going to eventually go into decline, is going to eventually die. So the world that we live in confuses us in that respect. It makes us think that, maybe I could. Yeah, if I just dip my toe in this stagnant water, maybe I'll be all right. It's okay. Stealing isn't that bad, when I need it. It's a necessity. I'm doing it for my family. So get the story of Robin Hood, right? Robin Hood was a great guy. That's what we learned growing up. He was a great guy. He stole from rich people and gave to the poor. When in reality, number one, you're going to get arrested if you take that type of ideology on and begin to practice that. And then number two, what he was doing in order to give to the poor was still wrong. And when you do something wrong, it doesn't matter what good you do out of it, right? This reminds me of just the practices we do in order to make money in our community, right? Even if you're selling drugs in order to get your mom a house, that's not a positive practice, and eventually that's going to catch up to you to where your mother may lose that house because you were caught up and realized that house was bought using drug money. It's no longer yours now. That wasn't real. So the world that we live in my perspective, purposefully confuses the morality of people, of right and wrong, so that we don't even know what direction to go in. We don't even know how to function in life sometimes. And I've experienced this because, like I said, growing up in the nation, I have very strong morals, right, for myself. However, I experienced that everyone around me had an opposite moral, right? Just from the basic point that I don't eat pork. That was like a taboo in the world. You don't eat pork? Why not? That's so weird. Well, first of all, it's a disgusting animal, the pig. It's a grafted animal from a cat, dog, and a rat. I bet you didn't know that. It's an animal that was not naturally put here on the earth. It's an animal that is toxic and contains a whole bunch of poisons and diseases. For one. That's for one. But for two, it's just a law in my religion. So I follow the law in my religion, but especially when I can research it and realize that this law that I have in my religion is helping me to be a healthier, better thinking, and freely thinking person, right? But I always, anytime, even nowadays, I will receive pushback because I don't eat pork. Or even those who are vegan or vegetarian, how they receive pushback because they decide not to eat meat or animal byproducts. Why should there be a pushback on someone's, if that decision is moral, if there's some morality rooted in that decision, why should there be pushback on somebody's decision to take care of their health? Why should there be pushback on me for not getting vaccinated when that is a decision that I make for myself? And it's not even a moral issue. Like that's not a moral issue. I just decide I'm not getting a needle in my arm, and I don't understand what it is that these scientists and doctors are putting into my arm. Why would I allow that to happen? I'm not, because my morals tell me that I have control of who I am, and especially my body, and especially as a Black woman in this society, that's not something that I should trust. So why should I make that happen? But the world made that decision a morality issue, that somehow I'm a lesser or worse person, or somebody who has the potential to kill people because I decided that I'm not going to get a needle in my arm. There's something very interesting about how this world poses morality and what it gets us caught up into as well. The battles that it gets us caught up into. So those are ways that I listed. The world minimizes your greatness. The world wraps you into false goals. The world makes you deny or forget your upbringing, and the world will confuse the morality of right and wrong. Those are the ways that I've identified that this world will do everything it can in spiritual warfare to keep you basic, to keep you null, to keep you not changing the world, right? So, of course, when you're in these battles, and I've been there, your purpose is blocked. You're not focused on enriching yourself. You're not focused on who you are. You're focused on battling, right? You're focused on struggling to even recognize if what you're doing is correct, right? And who you are is okay in the world, because it is natural for us to want to be accepted as human beings. It is natural for us to want to not hurt other people with what we do as human beings. However, us attempting to always fit into the ways that the world keeps us stagnant will keep us stagnant. It trips us up, it messes us up, and it makes us forget our purpose. It makes us personally block our purpose. It kind of stumps us, and it stops our growth in ways. We get so caught up, and at times we lose our path, right? In Islam, we pray that we can stay on the straight path. But at times we can lose this path. We can lose our way. We can lose our focus. We can lose our goals in life because we get so caught up with trying to fit into the boxes that society puts us into and tells us is okay. When we realize and we step into the conflict of, I don't fit into any of these boxes, that's where trouble begins. That's where we can begin to slip up. When you're in this battle, your purpose is blocked because you are so caught up in things that are other than, bless you, what is helping you to fulfill your purpose. You are caught up with things that are irrelevant to growing you and who you are. You're caught up in this world and trying to be a part of this world. So, how do you recognize that you're in this position? How do you recognize that your purpose is blocked? One way to recognize that your purpose is currently blocked is that you feel unsure about what you are doing in life. A lot of people tell me, I have no idea what my purpose is. I don't even think I have one. I don't know what my purpose is. That is a block. That each one of us have a purpose in life. Each one of us have something that we're adding to the betterment of this world. So if we can't even identify what that is, or we feel that we don't have a purpose at all, that is a very clear sign that we are being blocked, that we are currently in a battle, and perhaps we're not focusing on who we are in that purpose. We're focused on the world, and we're focused on things that don't build us up and enrich us as human beings. Also, when you feel uncomfortable being alone with yourself, this specifically is something that I had to deal with at a certain point in my life where I was very spiritually dead. I was very spiritually dull. I was in a dark time where I wasn't focused on the enrichment of myself. I was focused on the enrichment of my pockets and living freely, right? I was in a certain period where my morals, all of them went out the window. I was drinking. If I wanted to, I would smoke. I was getting myself involved in things that I knew I didn't like, number one, for me personally, and I knew was against what I believed was right. And in those moments, I felt uncomfortable being alone with myself. I needed to be working. I needed to be around people, even if I didn't truly care for them. And that was a sign for me that something is deeply wrong. I'm not even comfortable with being in my own company, right? Another way to identify that your purpose is blocked is the feelings of depression, or the state of depression, anxiety, stress, dependency on alcohol or drugs, and the dependency on other people, right? So similar to being afraid of being alone with yourself, when you find that you are in a down state, depression is the state of just feeling down, like emotionally distraught, emotionally gone, right? Anxiety is that state of feeling as if nothing is okay, right? Anxiety is feeling as if you always need to be doing something, perhaps, or you're always unable to do something, perhaps, right? Stress is that feeling of there is something that I can be doing, but I'm not doing it. And that creates the feeling of stress because you know that there is something that you need to be moving towards in your heart, in your soul, but you're not doing it, or you're unable to do it because of the feelings of anxiety and depression. And that creates stress, which creates more anxiety and depression.
See all the stress that we're under? See, it's coming from dying in the mind. And when you look, what do you mean, dying in the mind? See, knowledge allows you to handle stress. Are you listening? Knowledge equalizes the pressure that's coming from the outside to the inside. I'm sure you've heard me teach this at some point, that there are 14.7 pounds of atmospheric pressure on every square inch of your body. That's a lot of pressure. I got high blood pressure. Something wrong with that picture. See, there's something that we are not doing that's allowing pressure to start destroying our health and well-being. Are you with me? Yes, sir. Now, how many of us are suffering from mental disease? Yeah, the mosque is the nut house, right? This is where you come when you're sick. You come out of the world. You had your reefer, you had your coke, you did all what you did, but now you're stressed. Why am I stressed? Well, man, I am. See, and whenever you know what you should do, and you don't do what you should do, what you know to do becomes stressful on you because you didn't do it. Now, compound that with a world that's going out. Look at the pressure that's on our head right now as the world goes down, the economy goes down, people foreclosing on our houses. We can't pay car note. Man coming to repossess. That's pressure. See? But now, if in your mind you have the knowledge of how to handle your affair, then the pressure lessens because knowledge tells you how to get out of a problem that you're in. Does that make sense?
So something that we've normalized that is very problematic, for lack of a better word, is the dependency on alcohol and drugs. We take alcohol and drugs as a lifestyle, as something that you just do, or you're supposed to do, or it is acceptable and cool to do, to overindulge in alcohol and to smoke every day. The legalization of marijuana is something that a lot of people champion. They claim that it's healthy to smoke. And number one, the act of smoking itself is an unhealthy thing for your lungs. However, people are not actually engaging in the act of smoking for their health. They're engaging in it because it is a dependency. It keeps you high. It keeps you blocked away from your actual feelings and your actual thoughts. It puts you in a light and more airy and mood. Like it puts you in a more depressed state where you don't have to feel the emotions that you possibly are feeling or the stress that you're feeling throughout your day. It's a stress relief. It's a depressant. It's a stimulant for some people. I've seen some people who can only focus when they're smoking, especially when it comes to specific activities. So the dependency on alcohol and drugs is an addiction. It's not a positive thing, but the world normalizes it as if it is a positive thing or just a regular part of life that people do. But when you are experiencing that dependency, which I've experienced where I had to be drinking if I was hanging out with new people, or I had to be drinking if I'm hanging out with a specific group of friends. And that, I recognized it was a dependency. And I knew that there was something going on. I knew that I was losing a spiritual battle. I knew that I was off the straight path. I knew that I wasn't pursuing my purpose. I wasn't going for me. I was neglecting myself to the benefit of the world. I was neglecting myself to the benefit of other people. And then, of course, the dependency on people, right? A lot of people need the company of others in order to feel good about themselves instead of being able to feel good in their own right. We shouldn't have to depend on somebody else's approval or the acceptance of somebody else to feel good about ourselves. Of course, as human beings, we are communal people. However, there is a healthy balance between that. There is a dependency on you and your higher power that, that should be what we lean on. However, sometimes that gets translated when we're wrapped into the world. That gets translated into a dependency on people who are no better than us. Not that they're worse than us, but they're no better than us. They need to depend on a higher power. So we cannot depend on those people because they don't know our purpose. They don't know our potential. And it's dangerous if we put the essence of our potential and our purpose into their hands. And then the last way that I listed to recognize that your purpose is blocked is fear surrounding sharing and expressing your gifts and talents. Specifically, when it comes to expressing your gifts and talents and what you know is attached to your purpose in life, when you're experiencing a fear or a blockage around doing what you believe you are meant to do, that is a sure sign that your purpose is being blocked. And we often do that to ourselves. I've discussed doing that to myself on this. So these are just ways to identify that, hey, perhaps I'm in a spiritual battle. I don't even recognize it. And my purpose is being blocked because I am feeling unsure about what I'm doing in life. I'm uncomfortable being alone with myself. Depression, anxiety, stress, and alcohol, drugs, they're ruling my life. One of these things and other people. And fear is surrounding the essence of who I believe I am. I do not feel comfortable sharing the essence of who I believe I am. And on that last point, a lot of times it is because the world doesn't want you to be the essence of who you are. The world likes the negative downturn that it is in. It likes being the way that it is. And who you are is supposed to better the world and make it a more positive place. The world doesn't want that, right? So when you recognize, and I've been through these experiences of recognizing that my purpose is blocked, when you recognize that, do not get down on yourself, right? Don't attack yourself. It is not a bad thing to recognize that you are being blocked within your purpose. I believe that is a normal part of life that we are fighting daily, all the time, in our sleep. We are fighting to be our better selves. We are fighting to live in our purpose. And it's okay to recognize that perhaps we're losing the fight in this moment, or perhaps we need a new strategy and fight plan, right? It's okay to recognize that. It's a good thing that we're able to recognize it. Don't yell at yourself. Don't get down on yourself. Give yourself a hug. Because you're here, you're alive. You're able to recognize it, which means that you can create a new battle plan, which means that you are still in the fight, regardless. So build yourself up. How do we build ourselves up to win the spiritual battles that we are in, to win our purpose, to win a fulfilled life, to win the manifestations and the ideas that we see in our head? I hope this podcast is making sense to you all. I wanted to discuss spiritual warfare in a way that can be palatable to people who may be unsure about their religious beliefs or have not really tapped into the idea of spirituality in the spiritual world. So in what we've discussed, we talked about how spiritual warfare, in my perspective, is actually the world preventing you from fulfilling your purpose, from knowing your purpose, and from accepting that you have a purpose. We all, each and every one of us, have a divine purpose that we are born into, that we are able to live out the way that we would like. However, the world tells us that we cannot. The world tells us that we shouldn't, and the world prevents us with roadblocks such as financial stress, such as war, such as random moral obligations like what we discussed with the vaccine. The world prevents us from living a fulfilled life in our purpose. And each and every one of us have experienced something where we realize that the world we live in is not very cohesive with the purpose or what we would like to do for ourselves. Many of us would like to just travel the world our entire lives and study different cultures, study different languages, study different people. But the systems that we live in do not allow that to happen unless somebody's able to kind of break through the systems and make it happen for themselves. And it is also essential to note that each and every one of us in the purpose that we have makes the world a better place when we actually fulfill that purpose. Each purpose that's given to each human being is so that we can help to make the world a better place, right? J. Cole said, and I always quote, "Can't change the world unless you change yourself." So we've talked through this. We talked about the purpose. We've talked about the types of situations, negative situations, that having a purpose and knowing it can attract as a roadblock from the world, which is an evil spirit, right? Or a wicked place. We've also talked about the ways that the world attempts to keep you basic. And we've talked about how those basic creating ways can actually block your purpose. And we've talked about ways to identify if your purpose is blocked or not currently. And again, I want to just emphasize that if your purpose is blocked, it is not a bad thing. It is a natural part of life that we all go through when we're striving to be better human beings and when we are striving to grow ourselves. So I wanted to end off, of course, on a positive note. And I wanted to share ways in which we can win our spiritual battles, ways in which we can further ourselves towards our goals and living a fulfilled life and manifesting our dreams. So these are just things that I've seen from other people's spiritual stories. I've seen from other people's just stories and their purpose, like E.T. the hip hop preacher, the way that he speaks. This is what I've seen of other people, and also what I've experienced within myself is key kind of across the board in all these people, and able to win spiritual battles, win that uphill battle of fulfilling your purpose in the face of obstacles and in the face of challenges against who you are as a person, right? So number one, pray, meditate, and yoga. And I put especially at night and dawn, right? So prayer, I've said it so many times, is so key, is so essential. Prayer is just a conversation with your higher self. Prayer is a conversation with your higher power. Now, some of you may say, I don't believe in a higher power. Regardless of what you believe in, you serve a higher power. You either serve the higher power of this world, or you serve the higher power that is within yourself, hopefully, which is more divine, which is God, right? Which is a more positive energy and a positive higher power that helps to create the nature when it's growing in the way that it should. You serve that higher power when you begin to pray, when you begin to meditate, when you begin to physically, with yoga, tap your body into who that higher power is. And specifically at night and dawn, Muslims are taught that is especially a great time to pray, because it is a spiritual moment. That is a spiritual moment when the sun is getting ready to rise, and also a very spiritual moment at night, where we should actually come inside. We shouldn't be out partying, but we should be in a protected place. We should be with family. We should be in a safe space, because at night is the time where darkness rules. At night is a time where it is easy for us to fall into the ways of the world and forget about who we are in ourselves. So prayer, meditation, and yoga is very key in what I've read about other people and in my experience for helping to build yourself up to win the spiritual battles that we are in, helping to build yourself up to recognize and remember your purpose despite the challenges that we face in life. Number 2, tap into a spiritual connection. Right? And this can be anything. This could be going to church, right? It is important that we actually tap into organizations. It's important that we tap into structures outside of what we can create that help us to connect spiritually. Now, this can be a church, this can be a mosque, this can be a ceremony, a healing wellness ceremony that we find. I have not been able to go on one, but I really want to go on a yoga retreat. And I'm Muslim. Yoga retreats aren't specifically Muslim or anything, but I want to go on one because I know that will help me to tap into just my spirituality. It'll help me tap into another part of myself. It'll put me in a state of peace to where I can feel safe in order to tap into my higher self. So that's the purpose of structures like that, right? A lot of people talk about the church and talk about the mosque. However, when we think back, if we were raised in the church and the mosque, a lot of who we are and a lot of the challenges that we faced, us being able to overcome them was only because of the structure that we had in going to the mosque and going to the church and being in the spiritual community that we were in, right? Whether that's African spiritualists as well, or any other type of religion or practice that you may have. And it is important for us to actually tap into those structures, especially when we're feeling depressed or anxious, right? Let's tap into those instead of tapping into the club, because we have fun tapping into the club. We have fun tapping into social media. We have fun tapping into just things that are not going to build us up, things that spend our money, things that waste our time. We tap into all of these things very easily, but we are so made kind of fearful and against tapping into the structures that we know help to build our people up. The civil rights movement started with the church, right? The civil rights movement started with us being able to congregate in a positive space and with the recognition of a higher power. That's the only way. Think about Nat Turner. Nat Turner was a preacher. The only way he was able to create and enact his rebellion was because he had a spiritual connection, and he brought other people into his connection and congregated around a higher power. There would be no Nat Turner that we know. We wouldn't know his name if it weren't for him and his connection to the structure of church with preaching, even within slavery, which is kind of amazing. So 1, pray, meditate, and yoga. 2, tap into your spiritual connection with a structure. 3, spend time alone. Like I said, it is uncomfortable when you're in a dark space to spend time by yourself. However, me specifically, I have been able to get out of my dark moments because of spending time alone. That means cutting off my social connection, cutting off my social media, and really allowing myself to think through the thoughts I'm afraid of, right? So I do that with journaling. I could do that with walking around just by myself. I've done that more recently after becoming a flight attendant. I've done that with just creating solo trips and traveling by myself rather than traveling with friends or people I'm familiar with, right? So there is a blessing in being able to be alone with yourself. And I think that's important, especially when you feel that you can't be. That's when you should go for it. Of course, if you're feeling any type of depression or suicidal thoughts, I'm not saying that go ahead and be alone with those thoughts. That's not a moment I believe that you should be. However, when you're just in that dark space and you're just uncomfortable with the questions that you're asking yourself, you're uncomfortable with the ideas that are coming into your head, sometimes it's important to explore those questions. Give an answer to, why am I not being who I want to be, right? Give yourself an answer to, why do I feel useless? That it's an uncomfortable question to actually sit with, but it's important when you're in those dark moments to actually sit with that, give yourself an answer, think through it. That's key. That's key to your healing. That's key to being able to grow. And it's okay to ask those types of questions. It doesn't diminish who you are at all. It actually helps you to be more in touch with yourself, which is important. And number 4, open up, right? Open up to somebody trusted. Open up to a life coach. Open up to a therapist. Open up to a trustworthy person in your life, right? Whoever that may be for you. Now, disclaimer for this part, no one in your life can spiritually assess you. So don't go opening up to people thinking that they're going to give you the answers to yourself. No, that is dangerous. No, because even your parents cannot understand what you are going through, right? Your parents, they may help you and aid you in building your purpose, but only you can determine that. And the knowledge that you have of yourself can determine what your purpose actually is. So don't go to other people thinking that they're going to spiritually, purposefully assess who you are and tell you who you are. When you open up to people who are trustworthy, what you need to be looking for is that the conversations and the ideas that you're able to bounce off of those people help you to actually spiritually assess yourself. Self-assessment, right? It is important that in those moments you can self-assess with people, and sometimes it's easier instead of just journaling. Sometimes it's necessary for you to open up and actually be vulnerable with people who you can trust and speak about what's been going on and the thoughts and the questions that you've answered for yourself and the ideas that you've had. When you open up, you are able to hear yourself talking about yourself and determining what your value is and who you are in this world and who you are within your right and your purpose. And lastly, number 5, celebrate your wins, be grateful, and keep building yourself. Spiritual warfare is a lifetime battle. Spiritual warfare is not something that happens once, twice, 5 times. It's every day. It's all the time. It's with different parts of life, right? It's with different experiences in life. They show up differently as you age, and as you as a child, you're going to have different battles than you do when you're an adult, and then you're going to have different battles than you do when you're an elder. It's a lifetime spiritual war that we are all going through because we are all living in this world and trying to be, hopefully, great human beings. And when we're trying to do that, it's important that we celebrate our wins. When we're able to recognize our blockages and then surpass them, that's amazing. Like, you're amazing. You're growing. You are awesome. You are strong. You are powerful, right? You are divine. And it's important to recognize that within ourselves and to also give gratitude. Give gratitude for being able to overcome that obstacle or that hurdle. Give gratitude for being able to wake up despite still going through the battle today, right? That battle might be going on right now, but you're still alive. You're still here to fight it, which means there's something there's something that you still need to ascertain. There's something that you still need to do, right? You still have a purpose. So make sure that you reflect on that and you actually are grateful, and also keep building yourself up. Keep gathering different forms of knowledge. Keep gathering different stories. The stories that people tell of their spiritual battles. One reason why I love Iyanla Vanzant is because of what she shares about her battles and her journey towards her purpose, where she's still living in and she's still learning how to manifest, right? So make sure that you learn about those different stories so they can inspire something within you, right? E.T. the hip hop preacher, extremely inspiring, like completely. So it is important for us to celebrate the wins, to be grateful, and to keep building ourselves up by gathering more knowledge, and of course to keep deepening our spiritual connection with our Creator. Whatever you call the Creator, God, Allah, the universe, the Great One, whatever you call your Creator, it's important that you keep deepening the connection with Him through prayer and meditation, and just learning about different forms of what Creator is, of what Allah is. It's so key to do that, because that's a constant reminder of what you're living for. That's a constant reminder of who you're living for, and a constant reminder of who you are growing into. Because we were all made from nothing to be like our Creator. And that's it. Right? So essentially all of our purpose is to be more like the Creator, to take more charge of the world that we're in, instead of letting the world take charge of us. But we have to realize that we have everything that we need to win that battle. And I believe that each and every one of us can. So in my closing, I would like to thank you all for listening. I would hope that each and every one of you know your purpose. Think about it. If you need a space in order to talk about purpose and in order to speak about things like spiritual warfare and spiritual battles, please contact me. Like I said, I am a certified life coach. I specialize just from who I am in purpose and spirituality, which is why this episode is extra long and is very important to me. But in closing, I do want to share that spiritual warfare is real. It doesn't matter how deep you go into the ideas of the spiritual realm, right? This isn't some spooky stuff. However, spiritual warfare in terms of you needing to live out your purpose and the world fighting you at every step of the way is very real. I hope I've made that evident for each and every one that's listening. So in that, I hope that you seek refuge in your Creator. Seek refuge in Allah every single day, every single moment, because that will aid you in being able to win the battles that we face each and every day. Doesn't matter, like I said, if you believe in God or not, you are serving a God. And you can serve the God of wickedness with your actions, or you can serve the God of righteousness. And we know when we're serving the God of righteousness, and a lot of it has to do with whether or not we're living in our purpose. So just keep that in mind as you go throughout your life, as you go throughout the day. I just encourage everyone to live free, right? Live free, and living freely means living in your purpose. Living freely doesn't mean not caring. Living freely doesn't mean I just do anything I want, depends on my whim. Nah. After we're children, we have to mature above just going for what is desirous to us. And if we're living in a space where we're chasing desire, or we're chasing feel-good moments, we have to think about what we're actually doing. What will make us actually purposeful in our life? Live freely in that. Do not let what the world is, and do not let the structures that we have to live under stop you from being you. Don't let it stop you from speaking out. Don't let it stop you from living in what you believe is right. It's not about anyone else. It's not about your parents. It's not about your friends. It's not about the government. It's not about anyone else. It's about you and how you believe and know within your soul you are meant and supposed to live. As long as it is not harming anyone else, right? If you're living in a way that you believe you should harm other people, that's not right. That's not right. We should never be the aggressor, but we defend those who aggress against us, right? So if somebody is making an offense against you, go ahead, do what you need to do. But if you are being aggressive towards someone, you are not living a righteous life. You are not living a life that is purposeful. You're being a part of this world and you are bringing it down, and you are going to go down with it. Let me bring it back up. Don't want to end on that negative note, but on the flip side, live freely, meaning live in your purpose. Be great. Be great. Be your best self. Live your best life. Live your best life in the best way. It's okay to have morals. It's okay for you to feel down as well. And it's okay to recognize that you're not living the way that you should be. Recognize it. Take note of it. Seek refuge in your creator. Seek refuge in your higher self. Seek refuge in Allah. And be great. Because each and every one of us as human beings are, in my perspective. That's what I believe. But like I said, this was a very deep topic. I thank you all for listening. I hope that you got something out of it. It's real, y'all. Spiritual warfare is real. And we've all been through it. It's important to recognize what we've been through so that we can build a better armor to be our better selves. But I'm very optimistic. I think that we're moving into a better world. I think we're watching the powers and the evil that runs this world. I think we're watching it fall down, because my generation and the generation after us, we want to live more freely in who we are and what we believe our purpose is to be. So with some guidance from our elders, I believe that we are in the process of creating a much, much, much better world for our future, for my children. And yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you want to support Tea Time Podcast, you can go to acourseofaction.com/shop-by-atiyaj and get yourself a mug, right? We got this mug. This is my Be Yourself mug. And I also have Tea Time Podcast mug that you can purchase there. Please buy a mug, support me, and yeah, peace.